we'll find time. Okay, so first, this is not the first book you've written of that.
No, I wrote one in between my leaving IMF and coming to Ghana.
Okay.
That's the editors were Thomson Writers, publishers.
Okay.
Yeah.
They published it for you.
They published it.
Okay.
So it's online.
Okay. So
that's a more general, generic, because of the work I used to do on VAT. So that's more general textbook.
A more general textbook.
Yeah.
What's the difference between this and what you? Because this one, it looks like what I'm seeing is a handbook.
Yes, this is a handbook, and we use, even though we use some other country experiences.
Okay.
In this book, we just use a standard table, not much quotation of laws because it's used globally.
Okay.
But the difference is that this uses Ghana's experience with the implementation of the VAT, which was one of the most difficult, the VATs, those days were technical assistance was being provided, or the promoters was the IMF, and many development partners, crown agents and DFID, and so we were in ERP SAP and we were doing a lot of reforms. We were known for the Washington Consensus. When you talk about, Ghana was one of the examples. We even sent, our citizens to places to help. For example, the Uganda Revenue Authority was established. The first Commissioner General was my first boss, National Service, and later, Dr. Labisiao, who went with a group of Ghanaians. Rwanda, he went to Rwanda, set them up. It's taken us a long time for come back home to, and that's part of it is because of the problems with Kumi Preko. Much of the reforms, were distorted and the rest. So Ghana's VAT implementation with one word, Kumi Preko, or the Preko demonstrations, was something that was studied globally. What is it that developing countries need to learn, from the Ghana experience. And so the difference is that this book chronicles the experience. That experience, we introduced the VAT, cancelled it, and then reintroduced it, in the Rawlings administration. And then we started distorting it seriously. So in 2013, we cleaned the VAT law completely. In fact, we cleaned all the tax laws, the main ones, income tax, excise duty, we did it completely new law and others. And then the VAT was 2013. We tried to clean it as comprehensively as possible. Then we lost, and then a lot of distortion, including levies taking, So we give specific examples. That's the difference. We quote the law also to show, and the effect of the distortion. So if we say that, for example, let me give an example. If a specific example, and Dr. Pepra, who chaired, gave the history. We introduced the VAT at 10%. We wanted to introduce it at, we wanted to increase the rate to 12.5, 2.5 difference. But because of Kumi Preko and others and skepticism about payment of tax, the government made a promise that we'll increase the VAT to 12.5%. But we use the 2.5% for educational purposes. That's how we got Get Fund. Then His Excellency Kufuor came, and they also had to increase it to 15% because 10% was not sustainable. Because it was replacing the sales tax, which was 17.5%, sales and service taxes. So he also then takes a cue, increases the rate to 15%, and he said, the additional 2.5% will be dedicated to health. And that's how we got health insurance. We chronicle this. So when you come back, years around 2017, 2018, and you remove the Get Fund and the NHI, which were being collected as though they were a VAT, right, which allowed businesses to take credit for the tax they paid on their input and convert them to a levy, what you are doing is that you are distorting. You think that you raise more revenue, but you stop the credits, you stopped the refunds and other, in principle. So what it means is that because it's a levy, if you pay the same 15%, you remember 10, 2.5, 15, previously you could get a credit for the 15. But with the separation, you get a credit for only 10. Okay. And because the businessman does not get a credit for the 5, 2.5 plus 2.5, they'll add the levy as cost before calculating the VAT. So in essence, you haven't achieved much, right? But they will not get the credit. So they add it to cost, and it increases prices, evasion, avoidance, and that's what we did with it. So we chronicle all that experience. So you know that we are, yes, even as of yesterday, the effective date came for us to put VAT on non-core financial services, particularly non-life insurance.
Okay.
That was part of the 2013 correction that was done.
Okay.
Which was repealed. And now we have had to reintroduce it. So the message of the book is VAT replaced the sales tax, the service tax, a number of levies, entertainment levy and all those things, and so if you don't keep the VAT clean, you are going back to a period when we didn't achieve anything with having so many of those levies.
Yes. Okay. So your book is saying those distortions should be avoided as much as possible.
That's why it's VAT in Africa.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we were pioneer, in the introduction of VAT, we failed miserably and then reintroduced, so we are saying that the history is there and that some of the things we are doing now. And I used to, for example, e-levy, I oppose it, significantly. What we had to do is what we are doing now. You put the VAT, it's consumption, it's a consumption tax. All right. So we put the VAT on the fees and charges.
Okay.
Not on your savings.
Okay.
Not on your investments.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
For which you are benefiting. So if there's going to be a VAT on services, electronic services, it should be on the fees and charges.
Okay.
Not on the amount I'm sending to my mother. Why? Because it's income and I paid income tax already.
Okay.
And you are also discriminating. If I put the money on the phone and I send it, I pay a charge. It's okay because I'm using the services of MTN. So if I pay the fees and I pay on it, right? But not on the 1,000 which I'm sending.
Okay.
Because you've already collected tax on it. And then the difference also is that if I put my money not on the phone but in a wallet, and I go to the village and give the 1,000 to my mother or father, I don't pay any tax on it.
Yeah.
So you are discriminating. And you are killing the initiative to use electronics in the system. So these are some of the examples
that you dealt with in book.
Yes, and we started writing a long time ago before, we came to power and there's a decision. So for those who are going to be following changes that are going to be made in the VAT Act, it tells you where those distortions and why, it should be changed.
Because you said you started writing whilst in opposition. So was it?
We can call it a COVID book, actually.
Okay. So in actual fact, is it to say that it was what you were seeing being done to VAT that made you decide to write up this book to serve as a guidance?
Yes, remember the first task was to update this because particularly the international tax, at the time I wrote this, a lot has changed. E-levy, electronic, many countries are doing electronic. So I was doing a research to update this one into a second edition.
Okay.
But when I saw what was going on, what best than to give an example of, to other Africa, because by the way, I also teach, VAT, African Development Bank Academy. They are even in Ghana, now. So in the course of teaching, I use various country experiences and the rest. So I decided, okay, why don't you
put together a book?
But it's come fortuitously in the sense that Ghana has decided, it's agreed that it's just not working. 20 levies is just not working, and we have to rationalize it.
And currently, I understand there's an attempt to do that rationalization that you're talking about. Yes. Are you making any progress at all?
Yes, we're making progress. If we're not making progress, there are part of them are in the IMF program, which the previous administration agreed to some changes. We've made those changes, and it's going to the board. So, no life insurance again. what is being charged, it's a consumption service.
Okay.
You are taking insurance, it's a service, which is being rendered. And we don't do life because for obvious reasons. Many countries don't do life.
And explain that. VAT on non-core insurance services.
Non-core financial services. Okay. So another example, if you put your money, in a bank and they give you a credit card.
Okay.
Right. The money is loaded on your credit card. So, or you use a credit card to go to an ATM and you take out the money. The difference is I put the same money in my pocket.
Okay.
Right. I'm not using the services of a bank.
Okay.
The ATM. So what you should be paying the VAT on, which is a consumption, is a service. Not the money you are taking.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So the fees and charges, and it's non-core because interest does not attract VAT.
Okay.
Because you have saved and you are earning your savings. If you use that savings, if you save 100, you earn interest of 20 and you decide to take the 20 is not consumption. So the fact that you are taking 20 is not consumption, it's investment.
Okay.
And we need Ghanaians to invest. We were just talking about it. Buying government bonds so that we can do development and repay. So that will be punitive.
Okay.
Because you've paid the income, what you are saving is net, assuming that you paid your income tax anyway. If you are an employee, to be deducted as source, right?
Okay.
Assuming you paid, yes. So, but when you decide, to use the services of a business, right, then you are buying, it's on consumption, and consumption is goods and services.
Okay.
So you pay the fee pay the VAT on the fee. Yes. So there was an omnibus clause which spoke about non-core financial services. So it doesn't matter whether that financial service, therefore, is being done by MTN, Google, or is being done. You remember there was those who follow. There was a similar, issue between Canada and the U.S. recently, where Canada has to backtrack because they were putting VAT, exactly. So services are part of consumption. So the fact that you are using an ATM and you are paying a fee, you are paying for the services of using the ATM. You are not paying for the services of savings. Yes.
Well, interesting. So I have a copy. This is my copy, right?
Yeah, I'll autograph it for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I have a copy. But anybody wants to read this book, where can they find it?
It's initially in the university bookshops.
Okay.
And it's in EPP.
Okay.
Bookshop. Some other bookshops, but it's also online. I will give you the, and you can also order it online. Yes. So.
Okay. Yeah. Then let me conclude by asking you, because we have to go. Ochami Bajimba is on standby.
I
want to find. I want to find out from you. How did you end up in VAT, becoming the coordinator for VAT? Because sometimes when you mention this, and then I go and Google your age, then I do some subtraction, I realize you were relatively young at the time.
Yeah, very young.
Yes.
I just finished national service.
Then you became VAT coordinator?
Well, no, not immediately. I finished national service. I did my national service at procurement agency. And then, then I moved to the National Revenue Secretariat.
National Revenue Secretariat.
Yes, and then I joined the National Revenue Secretariat, which is part of Ministry of Finance, but not as autonomous as GRA.
Okay.
So the origin of GRA is the National Revenue Secretariat, which became RAGB, if you remember, Revenue Agents Governing Board. And then to 2009. So I was working there when I qualified as an